What if I told you the song Teenage Dirtbag by Wheatus, the iconic song we all know and love, was actually inspired by a real-life murder?
She always does that.
And the guy who wrote it, he grew up right in the middle of it. Okay, Nikita.
Hey.
Hey. So, you know the song Teenage Dirtbag. Let's set the scene.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
Butterfly clips in your hair.
Yeah, girl.
Okay. Maybe a
With
wallet
my
chain.
zigzag part.
Oh, a zigzag part.
Yeah.
Very bright blue eyeshadow that you applied with your finger.
Obviously, yes.
It's shimmery.
Or Q-tips
Oh,
for the fine details.
exactly. And maybe a mud belt
Yes.
with
the things.
with the things.
Yeah.
The grommety things.
Yes.
I don't know.
I was
what
like,
they're
what are those called? Yep.
Yep.
I had that one.
Flare jeans. If it's raining, it's wet up to here.
Oh yeah.
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 And
those brown sandals that made your feet smell horrific.
really bad.
I
really
wore them out
bad.
though. I didn't care.
No, that's none of my business what they smelled like because
No.
they look good.
They did.
And you are scream singing Teenage Dirtbag in your room,
As one does, yes.
as one does.
Mm-hmm.
So that's our scene. But did you know that song is inspired by a real life murder?
I did not know that.
I didn't know that either.
And I'm upset now.
I know. Thanks to Vice for telling the people the important things, because
Had no
apparently
idea.
they came out with a thing on it, and I saw it on TikTok.
And now here we are. So shout
And
out to
now
TikTok
here we
for
are.
inspiring today's true crime story time.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So yeah, this was a brutal drug-fueled murder.
Okay.
We've got betrayal. We've
Oh.
got a lot of LSD. A
Oh.
lot of other drugs too.
Okay.
We've got Satanic Panic.
Oh.
1984, y'all.
My favorite kind of panic.
Uh-huh.
Except for the one at the disco.
At the disco,
obviously.
yes. That's came later.
Yeah.
And we've got a lot of AC/DC,
Okay.
Iron Maiden, of course,
Of course.
and all the other bands that you listen to that make you worship the devil,
Yes.
as we well know.
Obviously. Well,
That's
I'm in
how it
recovery,
works.
so I understand.
Exactly.
All right.
That's why I told you to wear your Def Leppard shirt. That's
Well,
as close as we could get today.
I know. Sorry. I don't have an AC/DC shirt. I'll get one for next time.
Exactly. So today I'm going to tell you the true story behind the murder
Okay. that
haunted a generation.
Mm.
Okay. But also inspired one of the biggest Y2K, like, I'm sort of an outcast bangers,
Yeah.
that we still love today.
All right. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Welcome to True Crime Story Time. And we hope you're happy to be here.
Yes, we're happy to be here.
We are happy to be here. It's been a minute.
Yeah.
So let's go
Yes.
ahead and get into it.
Yeah, and if you like your true crime stories with a little Y2K twist, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button.
Yeah.
Grab your Iron Maiden tickets. It's about to get wild.
Satanic, some would say.
Some would say.
So if you've got holy water handy,
Please.
Be ready.
We need an old priest and a new priest.
let's do it.
Yeah.
All right.
So one of the things that when I initially heard about this,
Okay.
because it did say it was like a killing that was part of like a satanic ritual.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, but probably not.
Yeah, probably
'Cause
not.
Most of the Satanic Panic stuff was
Yeah.
so not.
Now, this makes me think of the West Memphis 3, where they're just like, it was a Satan worshiping cult. And it was like, no, but okay.
No.
Yeah.
I just sort of assumed that that's where this was going to go.
Yeah.
It really does have some stuff to do with Satan.
Oh, that's
Color me surprised.
unexpected for a
Mhm.
satanic cult.
I know, exactly. They never
see that
are.
coming,
Exactly.
actually.
So that's probably the biggest
Okay.
twist. Yeah.
All right.
All right. So we're going to talk about Ricky Casso,
Okay.
the teenage dirtbag himself.
All right.
Mhm.
All right.
We do not like him. So he grew up in Northport, Long Island.
Oh,
I'm told you do the hard G there.
Long Island.
Long Island.
Okay.
So he was a teenager in the early 1980s. He grew up in an upper middle class suburb. And so apparently Northport was a rough neighborhood.
Okay. Okay.
The guy from Wheatus
Nope.
Brandon? Oh my gosh. Did I forget his name? I did. Brendan.
Close.
So sorry, sir. Teenage Dirtbag just came true. He's like, you don't even know who I am. And like, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
We love you, though.
We love you. I love your voice. I know your voice anywhere. Okay, so Brendan. Anyway, he said in the Vice documentary that he'd been in more fist fights.
Makes sense to me.
Good God. Okay. So
All right. All right.
he'd been in more fist fights than he could count by the time he was 9.
What?
I know.
I can't imagine my almost 9-year-old in a fist fight.
I could not imagine.
My almost 6-year-old, 100%. Yeah.
Well, and yeah.
But my 9-year-old, no.
Somebody has to bring the hammer down. So yeah, he said he was like had to get in fights all the time. Like there's drugs everywhere. There's all the teenagers in this area are like
that is
very
nuts.
rebellious. Yeah, it's
Okay.
like a wild place to be, it sounds like.
Okay.
Based on like what they're saying.
All right.
So Ricky Casso was born in 1967 to Lynn and Richard Casso Sr. So he's a junior.
All right. All right.
But
the second?
I think his dad went by Dick though, so we can call him Dick.
Okay.
And Dick was a respected history teacher and a high school football coach.
That tracks.
And
Of course he was.
And from the outside, what is this family? Picture perfect.
Of course they are.
You know, American Dream, all the things.
Mm-hmm.
So Ricky quickly spirals as he gets into his teenage years.
Okay.
He starts hanging out with a bad group. You know?
Yeah.
He's not going to school. He's cutting class all the time. He's getting in trouble for truancy, vandalism, drug use.
Okay.
He began to refer to himself, and we never give ourselves a nickname. It doesn't go well. He gave himself the nickname of the Acid King because he would sell. He did a lot of drugs.
Okay.
But then he started to sell a lot of drugs, and so kind of like to the children in the neighborhood.
To the children?
Oh, yes, like younger kids.
My God.
So they all were like, Ricky's so cool. He sells me frickin' LSD or whatever.
But he called himself the Acid King?
He did.
I don't like that.
Yeah. And then, it caught on.
Obviously, yeah.
Right. But he started it. He was selling a lot of it, and he was doing a lot of it. And it just progressed.
Okay. We're ramping up.
Significantly. Yeah.
Got it.
He was, though, also at this time obsessed with heavy metal.
The devil's music.
Exactly. And occult symbolism, and reportedly idolized Ozzy Osbourne and AC/DC.
Well, those two send you straight to hell.
Straight to hell. Which is so funny to me because Ozzy Osbourne is just, obviously, like, we had the Osbournes.
I only know, obviously, Ozzy was a little before our time in his prime.
Mm-hmm.
So I only know him as the Osbourne, as Kelly and Jack's dad.
Exactly.
And obviously I knew who he was before that, but that is how I know him. That was my introduction to him. Like, that is how I see him.
Yeah. He's
just like shuffling through the house, being like, Sharon!
Yeah. And he's just like, oh my gosh, it's so funny. So just to think of at this time, and then like the police in the area and the parents in the area and the, being like, Ozzy Osbourne, like he's dangerous. It's like
well, he was going off the rails of the crazy train, so
that's true.
He did let him know.
He did. He didn't pretend.
He didn't.
So he ends up being kicked out of his home. He's sleeping in friends' cars, the woods, or abandoned buildings.
The woods?
Mm-hmm. Which is scary. He spent a lot of time in cemeteries. He did some like grave digging kind of crap. Like
No, sir. Yeah. That is how you summon the devil. I don't. Nope.
He's scared of shit.
I'm scared of everything.
I know. So then he kind of led this group.
I'm already cringing.
And he called it the Knights of the Black Circle.
Okay, well, King Arthur had the Knights of the Round Table, so
I see where he's going.
What's the Black Circle, though?
Like devil stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Black circles equals devil stuff.
Yeah,
it makes sense.
The media after this tries to portray it as a satanic cult. The other teens and kids that were kind of involved in it, they didn't care about the satanic crap. They just wanted the drugs he was giving them.
Okay. All right.
So, because apparently he would, sure he gave himself the nickname, but he went on to earn it
Okay.
by having the best price on acid in town. That
That's
the
good
kiddies
business.
could afford it.
That's
you
good
know?
business.
So, yeah, if you want volume sales, you're going to have
Yeah.
the prices.
Yeah.
So that was more like the kids were like, I mean, yeah, he like sold drugs, and he would talk about satanic stuff,
Okay.
but we didn't really care about that. It was just like,
So
but he's
he
selling
was
us
trying
the
to like
drugs.
bring the Satan element, and they were just like, yeah, just give me the stuff.
Yeah, I think
Okay,
so.
cool.
Yeah, he was just like, but did you
But did you read my
accepted
pamphlet?
Satan into your heart? And they're like, just give me drugs.
They're like,
I don't.
yeah, we can talk about it next week.
Yeah, like, no. They would shoplift, they'd drop acid or inhale acid or drink
I think
it. I
you
don't
drop
know.
it.
Okay. And they would hold ceremonial bonfires in the woods behind Northport High School.
That sounds like it could be satanic. Also sounds like it could be a field party.
Yeah. You just, and again, I think the kids sort of went along to get along sort of thing. Like, it didn't seem like the other kids were like real, like,
They weren't buying the Satan.
Not really.
Yeah.
Didn't seem that way. Our victim in this case is Gary Lauwers. He was 17 at the time. He was a former friend of Ricky's. He had dropped out of school. He was dealing with substance abuse, and they were friends.
Okay.
Used to be friends. Everything seemed cool.
Right.
But then one night at a party, Gary stole 10 bags of PCP from Ricky.
Oh.
And I think he did, or smoking, or I don't know what he did.
Yeah.
5 of them. And Ricky finds out about it, and he's pissed. And at first, Gary is like, no, I didn't do that. Like, that's not true. Like, I don't know where your 10 bags of PCP went, but I didn't do anything with it. And then I guess finally he was like, okay, but I only did 5 of them.
Okay.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think he gives the other 5 back, and then Ricky's like, well, then you owe me $50 because 5 of them, by my math calculations, that's $10 per bag.
Yeah.
Which seems,
Ricky's
again, like
a businessman.
good deal.
Yeah, it does seem like a good deal. Ricky's a businessman, though, so if he intended to sell and he stole, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, that's...
Okay.
Now you're messing with my livelihood, sir.
Exactly.
Yeah. So he's like, you need to pay me back the money or whatever. I guess, Gary's 17
and and homeless, right? Didn't you say he was homeless, too?
I don't know if he was.
Or he dropped out of school.
Yeah.
Okay, it was Ricky who was.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
he was kind of bouncing around, which I wouldn't doubt that Gary was too. I don't know.
Okay.
All these kids were just kind of like
Either way,
in and out.
he probably doesn't have a stable.
No, and that's 1984.
Yeah, that's
$50
a lot of money.
is $100,000 in 1984. I think.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was like, yeah, bro, like, I don't have that. So now they are no longer friends. And Ricky's pretty PO'd about it.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of goes on this, it's weird because, like, Gary's still around in their friend group.
Okay.
But Ricky's very angry with him. So, like, Ricky's not hanging out with him one-on-one anymore, but he's still around at, like, parties and gatherings or whatever.
He's what I like to call a background character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. At least to Ricky.
Yeah.
But Ricky is also, like...
He's an extra.
Beating the crap out of him repeatedly.
Oh.
Yeah. He's like, when he sees him, he beats him up. Or, like, sometimes he'll go find him to beat him up. And, like, other kids in the area were like, yeah... Gary would, like, emerge from a bush and just have the crap kicked out of him. And, like... Ricky kept beating him up because he was so mad at him, and like
that's excessive.
It's quite excessive.
One beat down. Don't love it, but like, all right.
At some point, we have to.
But we gotta move on.
I mean, it's $50. I mean,
yeah,
that's one beat down feels $50 worth at least. Don't you think?
I would think.
I don't know. He couldn't let it go.
Okay, well,
he couldn't let it go. So then we get to the night of June the 19th, 1984. Ricky Casso is there, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Gary Lauwers is invited. And then Jimmy Trajano and Albert Quinones. So, here's the situation. They go into the woods that night, and they're going to trip on mescaline and smoke PCP-laced weed.
All at the same time?
I guess so. Just the amount of, like... They would be like, yeah, they did 20 bags of this or 50 joints of that. I'm like,
I would die.
Yeah, these are 17-year-old kids just like fucking.
My brain would just be like, cannot compute. We're done.
Yeah, that's everything's hitting at once. You're dead. That's it. You don't even know where you are anymore.
Sometimes if I've had too much to drink, sometimes I'll cry because I'm like, I'm never going to be sober again, you know?
Yes.
I can't imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever done that?
Yes.
It's terrible.
Yes.
I want to be drunk forever. This is my life now.
Yeah, I did that once with weed brownies because like I ate the one. I didn't realize they take a long time to kick in. So I ate a second one.
Oops.
Holy
and you were stuck.
Holy shit. I could not even move from where I was sitting.
Yeah.
And I remembered sitting there being like, say out loud you're hungry and somebody will bring you food. Like, because I couldn't move, but I couldn't make my mouth say things out loud either. And then I started to cry because I was like, what if I'm I forever?
You're like, this is it for me.
And what if I just live on this couch now? Like,
this is where I am.
it was terrible. I can't imagine 10 bags of PCP.
Just the thought of those 3 things combining at one time, like,
No.
It hurts my brain to think about it.
The human body is incredible. What a filtration system. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was supposed to be Ricky, Jimmy, and Al.
Okay.
But then Ricky invites Gary, and the other kids are like,
why?
Yeah,
Did
that's
he
kind of
know?
weird. At first, everything seemed like kind of okay.
Okay.
Like, not okay, because
like,
everybody knows there's tension. But
fine.
then they were like, maybe he finally got over it.
Okay. Maybe he's making amends.
Yeah, maybe he's like,
We're turning over a new leaf.
Yeah.
I've beat you down 100 million times now. Let's
you
move
have
on.
paid your debt.
Yeah. Okay.
So they run out of, like, they've got a fire going, and they start to run out of
wood.
Fire. Fire starts to die
run out of fire. I don't know.
It starts to go down.
Okay.
And so Ricky's like, hey, Gary, why don't you take your jacket off and throw it in there? That'll keep it going. And Gary's like, I know, I'm not going to do my jacket. But they cut his sleeves off and throw it in, which I think he agrees to. Now, there are differing.
Okay.
Everybody has a different story and all that stuff. They throw his sleeves in. And then Ricky suggests when they start to run out of that fire, that they cut Gary's hair off and throw it in to keep the fire going. And Gary's like, okay, this is getting weird.
Yeah.
I don't want to cut my hair off. So they hold him down and cut his hair and throw it in. Per one of their stories. And then Gary starts to get like, I feel like you invited me for like a not
nefarious reason.
Yeah, something's going on here.
Yeah.
I feel like you want to hurt me. And supposedly Ricky says, I don't want to hurt you. I want to kill you.
Oh my God. That is quite the escalation.
Mm-hmm. And then Ricky starts punching him, and then he starts stabbing him repeatedly, somewhere between 17 and 36 times, depending on the report. Stabbing him in the face and everything.
Okay, 17 and 36, big difference. Depending on the report, like, can you not just count?
Well, no, and I guess we'll get to that.
Okay.
But
I'll put a pin in it.
Yeah, put a pin in that. So, apparently, or allegedly, I should say allegedly, during the attack, Ricky is reportedly demanding that Gary say, I love Satan, say you love Satan, say you love Satan. And he just kept repeating, I love my mother. Like he wouldn't say it. And
Aww, that hurts my heart.
I know. I love my mom. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So Gary is like begging for his life. He's trying to apologize. He's like, dude, I'm sorry about the PCP. Like, oh my gosh, like, I'll give you the $50. You know, like what? Like, you don't have to kill me for this. He ends up dying from blood loss and stab wounds to his face, neck, and chest. So remember,
I was like, aren't there other people here?
There are other people here. So Jimmy and Al just sort of watched. They don't intervene. They don't try to help. They just
sat there and watched.
Yeah, and later they give conflicting accounts of like, well, I was scared for my own life, or I didn't know what he would do to me, which, I mean, okay. I guess he could probably turn a knife on you too, but like, there's 2 of you and 1 of him, like.
One of you didn't just like run to see if there was a person, like, can I get help? Let me
Yeah.
like see if someone's nearby. Like, you didn't even say like, hey man, maybe let's don't. Like, nothing?
Like, hey, yeah, like, Ricky, snap out of it, or,
That's, okay.
Afterward, Ricky allegedly covered Gary's face with leaves and branches and then bragged about the murder to other people for days.
Okay.
He goes back to the woods multiple times to show other people Gary's decomposing body and to boast about the murder. So, like, he keeps saying that
Oh my God.
he killed somebody, and, like, people don't believe him. And so he's like, fine, I'll go show you. And they think they're going to find animals that he's killed because he does that too.
Oh, okay.
So when he brings them there, because they're like, hey, it's probably a kitten, like, whatever, which, like, horrifying.
Still don't want to see it.
It's Gary's decomposing body. And they're like,
holy crap, you did it.
Oh, okay. And then
did nobody tell anybody?
Not yet, no. And then somebody, I don't remember which one of the either Jimmy or Al, or maybe both of them together, go back and try to move his body into like a shallow grave because they don't want it to be found. And it's so badly decomposed that it doesn't all stay together. I mean, it's really bad.
No.
So when you said we can't tell, it's just the decomposition was so bad that by that point it was difficult to tell.
Well, he was out in the elements too, right? Like, because they were out in the woods. So.
Yeah. And there was animal activity. There were parts there were things that were missing, and like all the things. So it wasn't until 12 days later, on July 1st, that Albert Quinones went to police and confessed what happened. It was bothering him. And so he finally told them 12 days later. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can keep a secret, but that's next level.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Like, how do you function?
I have no idea.
Like, oh my gosh. So Ricky Casso was arrested, and he was wearing an AC/DC Hells Bells shirt.
It's a great song.
And that was fodder for the media. They were like, look at this guy, devil worshipping music. And like the AC/DC. And by this point, he had like the longer hair, which was clearly satanic.
Of the devil.
Yeah. So that was like a whole thing. Rolling Stone did this big article about it and like all the stuff. And so like that picture was like,
that was the picture.
He was completely emotionless in court. During questioning, he reportedly, at first he was like, I know Gary, but I haven't seen him in a long time. I don't know anything about
12 days.
his
You
death.
haven't seen him in 12 days.
Like, right? And then finally he's like, yeah, no, I definitely killed him. And then he like goes into a lot of detail.
Oh.
And he tells Jimmy at some point, I'm actually not really sure how he would have done that because they were both arrested.
Yeah.
But he tells Jimmy that he was like, listen, bro, I took the fall for all of it, all right? I told him you had nothing to do with it. I told him it was just me. I acted on my own. And I was like, okay, well, he's got some principles. Like,
okay, good.
He has some. No, he was lying to Jimmy. He told that he was like, Jimmy is the one that told me to do it. Like,
is Jimmy the devil now?
Apparently.
Oh my God.
And he was like, yeah, I mean, like I was punching him or whatever, and then he handed me the knife and was like, do something with the knife, basically, and
oh my
told
God.
me to cut his throat and like all this stuff. So he like throws Jimmy like all the way under the bus.
He was like, if we go down, then we go down together.
Exactly. So then 4 days
Nuts.
later, on July the 7th, 1984, while awaiting trial in the Nassau County Jail, Casso takes a bedsheet, hangs himself.
Of course he does.
He's a goner. He leaves no note. But now he's not there to go to trial.
Right.
So the only person left to go to trial is Jimmy Troiano. And he was charged with second-degree murder. They did end up ultimately acquitting him in 1985. He had confessed a couple of different times, but his story changed every single time.
So do we think this is one of those not jailhouse confessions, but like a interrogation.
Right. Like, I'll just tell you whatever you want.
Yeah.
Possibly. I mean, he's also, 17 at the time?
Yeah.
Maybe 18 by the time, whatever. But his lawyer said he would give me, I don't think he was confessing to his lawyer. He confessed to the police a couple times.
Yeah.
And then by the time his lawyer got involved, he was like, he would give me plausible explanations of things. But the problem was that he gave me multiple that were very reasonable, but none of them matched. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's the whole thing. So the judge ends up ruling that his confessions were not admissible.
Good.
And then the rest of the evidence they had against him just wasn't enough to convict beyond a reasonable doubt.
Why did the other guy not testify that he had nothing to do with it? Would that not be your star witness?
Right.
Like, you were here, fam. You confessed to the police that Ricky did it.
Mm-hmm.
What's the deal?
And maybe he did. Maybe he did, and the rest of the evidence, maybe he was a defense witness. I mean, this happened in 1984, so there's not, a ton, but I would imagine that he did. So, I don't know. And he himself maintained, that Casso acted alone. He was just a witness, but he was too afraid to intervene.
Yeah.
Which I guess seemed believable because he got acquitted.
Yeah.
So now let's enter Brendan B. Brown.
Okay.
Frontman of Wheatus.
Hey.
So he said, he was 10 years old when this happened. This murder happened. And he lived in Northport.
Oh.
This kid lived down the block from him.
I was going to say, so this was in his neighborhood.
Big time. Yeah. So I don't know if he knew Ricky specifically, but he lived on his same block. So
he knew of him, I'm sure.
At the very least.
Yeah.
So he said that this was a case that shocked their whole community, obviously. Yeah. And it kind of changed everything. He said he was, though, also a kid who, at that time, he loved Iron Maiden. He loved AC/DC. He had tons of AC/DC tapes and all that kind of stuff. And so Ricky gets arrested for this murder, and he's wearing the AC/DC shirt. And so, all of the parents in the area are like, no AC/DC. And he said the priests in the area were like, what are you listening to? They started, talking about,
oh, I hate that. That feels yucky.
That's
the correlation. If you're doing this, this will happen. It's a foregone conclusion.
Right. And he's like, but I loved that music. And I had always loved that music. And, I wasn't into, satanic ritual killings. That's insane. So he reads the Rolling Stone article about this case. And in the Rolling Stone article, they call Ricky Casso a teenage. Well, I don't know that they say teenage, but they call him a dirtbag.
Okay.
Maybe they do say teenage dirtbag. But he's like, that's the first time I'd really heard that phrase, in mainstream media.
Yeah.
And he was like, and Ricky was he was a dirtbag. And this was before the murder. They're not calling him a dirtbag because he murdered somebody. Yeah. They're calling him a dirtbag because he was all he ever did was drugs. And you know, he's just raising hell all the time. And, he has no direction or purpose. And all that kind of stuff. So he's like, that's kind of where that phrase came from.
Yeah.
And it sort of stuck with him. And he was like, the song is really about feeling misunderstood, kind of scapegoated, ostracized because you're not
conforming to societal mainstream.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's writing the song or whatever. He said he wrote that initial guitar riff, the when he was early high school.
Oh.
This song was
kind of floating around for a long
in the
time.
making.
That's interesting.
And then he said he felt like he needed to do, because if you listen to him talk, he doesn't have a high pitched voice when he's talking. That's just how he sings.
Yeah.
So he said he felt like he needed to do something that kind of made him stand out a little bit. And if you listen back to this kind of rock, Ozzy Osbourne's voice is higher pitched.
Yeah.
And a lot of that kind of music, is sort of like that.
Yeah.
And those were his idols growing up or whatever. So he goes high pitched with it. And then, of course, at the very end of the song, where he's being the girl finally. And then he goes real high pitched. But it just sort of evolved, and he was like, you could say the song, the teenage dirtbag is like, oh, somebody who marches to the beat of their own drum and stuff like that. He's like, but when you really kind of, he was like, what I'm not saying in the lyrics is like, I'm just a waste of a person, or I'm worthless and there's no point to me, or, like whatever. He's like, but that's, the underlying sort of tone. So that is how Teenage Dirtbag
That's such an interesting
came to be. And like, who would have known that a murder would have kind of inspired?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, let us know what you think.
Yeah, let us know what you think. So if you like true crime mixed with a little millennial nostalgia, be sure to like and subscribe. And when did you first hear Teenage Dirtbag? And did you know that there was like this kind of story behind it?
Yeah, I certainly did not. So you could also, if you're feeling really excited, send us your Teenage Dirtbag pictures.
Yes, tag us. I love those. They're so fun.
Would love to see them.
Please do.
And we'll dig up ours.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll post them on our Instagram.
Yes.
So go to our Instagram and find them.
Yeah. So do.
Awesome.
All right. See you next time.